Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. You found it. This is Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. This is your only source for organic, responsibly handled, locally sourced, 5-minute a day studying the Psalms verse by verse podcast on the interwebs. Yes, sir, this is the only one. And you might say, it's a good thing it's the only one, Pastor Dave. Well, today we're looking at Psalm 119, the Yod section. We're going to be here all week looking at this lovely section of Scripture, verses 73 through 80. In your Scripture, in the Psalms, in Psalm 119, verses 73 through 80. And this one is a little bit like last week's because we have him thanking God for affliction in a way. You'll find out more about that as we go through it. But then you'll find out what comes after the mention of affliction. We'll get into that. This is so beautiful, the way he constructs this particular section. As I said, every one of these is a little bit different, has its own personality, its own fingerprint, its own style in a sense. It's almost like you have the psalmist here writing on different days, which probably he did. And maybe he had different ideas for each one of these letters of the alphabet because there are certain words that begin with these letters, and so he's thinking about those words and maybe meditating on those words. And then he's writing his poetry after that. Today we're just going to look at verse 73. So let me read that for you. Thy hands have made me and fashioned me. Give me understanding that I may learn thy commandments. So we begin with 73 and 74, and 73 and 74 really kind of go together nicely because we have this sequence of events. We have creation, salvation, witness, and confession, all here reflected in these two verses. Of course, each verse is a couplet, and you have two parts to a couplet, an A part and a B part. And here in the A part of this couplet, we have what I'm calling the creation narrative. Thy hands have made me and fashioned me. Now, we would all say, well, duh. Of course, that's God's work, isn't it? God's work is to make and fashion. That's what he does. It's what he did back in Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. This is what he's doing, and he continues to do this work in us. And so the psalmist attributes that to the Lord. He says, you've made me. This is my creation. You've made me and fashioned me. I've not been made by my evolution. I've not been made by circumstance. My heritage has not made me. No, the Lord is the one who's made me. I am who I am because the Lord has made and fashioned me in this way. I look the way I look. I talk the way I talk. I live where I live. All those things are in the hands of God. And so he's done that work, made and fashioned. And then we have what I call the salvation section in the B part of the couplet. Give me understanding that I may learn thy commandments. I say this is the salvation section because we have the psalmist making a request. Lord, give me understanding. This is the simple request of the penitent person who comes to the Lord for salvation. Recognizing our sinfulness, our need, we abandon our own ability to decide to walk in this life. We want to know God's way, and so we come to him with this plea, this cry of the heart. Give me understanding that I may learn thy commandments. So the understanding allows for learning, and that learning leads to salvation. And so we have the creation narrative, we have the salvation request, the prayer that's recorded here for us, give me understanding. And doesn't this sound like something we would find in the book of Proverbs? Oh, yes. Understanding is so important, and learning is so important there in the book of Proverbs, and it always centers around the commandments of the Lord. I want to know your ways. I want to walk in your ways. I want to do honor to the creature that you created. All right, so next time, tomorrow, we'll look at verse 74 and 75, and that'll be on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.